NASCAR Cup Series race. Here are your hosts, Kevin Bedstone, NASCAR Sky, and Jeff Davis.
Welcome back, race fans, to another awesome episode of Mash the Gas podcast. We're here to break down all of the action from the South Point 400, the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and a look ahead to the Yellowwood 500 at Talladega coming up. And my name is Kevin Batstone. Joining me shortly, Mr. Jeff Davis. Joining me now, Miss NASCAR Sky. Sky, I think I called it last week, but who mashed it the hardest this week?
Got to give it to Denny Hamlin. I mean, not only did he lock himself into the Final Four, but, he finally got win number 60. You could see it in his face, hear it in his voice. It was a very important win for him and the whole organization. So, we say it every year, but is this finally Denny's year?
I kind of think it is. He's had enough in him. I mean, he did really, really well during this race. I mean, obviously we know he didn't lead the most laps. Kyle Larson led 129 laps, which is phenomenal. But Denny Hamlin led 9 laps, and he led the laps that counted. But it was really cool this time, I think, to see the crowd really kind of, he didn't get very many boos out there. He had some tears in his eyes. He's got, his dad's got health issues. And to be able to tie Kevin Harvick, like you were saying, for, 60 career wins, that makes him tied as 10th on the all-time win list. Just really phenomenal for him. Whether you like the guy or you don't, you got to give credit where credit is due. And we've always talked about it. Denny Hamlin has had so much accomplishments in his career as a 44-year-old driver. You really do. You just got to give it up to him. So, yeah, congratulations to Denny Hamlin. I'm really stoked he punched his ticket into Phoenix.
Definitely exciting. And I mean, to be 10th on the all-time win list, he's had just a great career, and obviously a lot of off-track stuff with, the lawsuit against NASCAR and 2311 taking up his time and doing podcasting. It's a busy guy, and his head is in the game more than it's ever been. I said last week, I think Denny there's something different about Denny this year. He wants that championship. And if I'm Denny, I'm going all in on Phoenix. Put me on the sim now. I'd heard that he spent a lot of time in the sim and for Vegas, and obviously that carried over later in the race. But, I mean, Talladega and Martinsville, sure, it'd be nice to go out and rack up 2 more wins and get to Phoenix with 62. But the main thing that he should be focusing on now is their Phoenix package and throwing everything they've got at it. So, those last 10 laps were intense. I was kind of pulling for Denny, being that I picked him last week, and I, like to be right. And it was cool watching him battle with the 5 of Kyle Larson there. And then I was like, man, I just don't know if he's going to have enough to get to the front. And he was just lights out, razor fast, mashed that gas all the way down, passed him on the outside, Jeff.
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to do it, but it was kind of watching last week's race where, Chase Elliott came out of nowhere and just, boom, took the win. So, yeah, it is. Denny, it's his time. I think you're right, Kevin. He might take the whole thing this year. And again, like I said, whether you like him or you don't, I think it would be really cool for him to actually make it, but this is a very interesting race. I mean, Sky, we were talking a little bit offline about the guys who are below the cutoff line. And, we were thinking, hey, William Byron, he's dominating right now. And, I know Joey's still kind of down there and whatnot, but Penske and the 12 car and Ryan Blaney, that crushed me, Sky. What did you think about that when he had that tire go down?
What is that, DNF number 8 now on the season? I just feel like he's either complete lights out, going to get a top 5 finish, going to compete for the win. And it's been multiple different tracks that he's been really good at and showing consistent speed. But at the same time, I don't know, he's had some bad luck. And in my honest opinion, I think the Penske was just pushing it a little bit with the tire pressure because, he's a little bit of a hothead. And he got out the car and he wasn't all that mad, which makes me think that he kind of knew what went wrong there. But it is unfortunate. I'm glad to see that he was okay. And I'm not too worried. I'm sure he's not too worried because, he's really good at Talladega as long as he can not end up wrecked. And he's been dominant at Fall Martinsville. So if I'm Ryan Blaney, it's definitely not too much of a worry yet.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, they know they have fast race cars at the super speedways. I mean, Austin Cindric won this race back in the spring, so Penske's going to be a force if you can survive the big one. And you're right, Martinsville, which, if you were to shrink down New Hampshire, is essentially a mini version of that. And we saw what he was able to do up at my home track. So there is opportunities. There's still a path for Blaney to get to Phoenix. I think he's going to find a way. 31 points to the negative. You have to approach these next 2 weeks as a must-win situation. And I know Jeff and I were talking a little bit about the William Byron situation there. I mean, what a hit into the back of that 10 of Ty Dillon. That now moved him 15 points below the cut line. I think the 24 is going to have enough speed to probably dig his way out of this, depending on who wins this race. If we get a non-playoff driver that wins, I think the 24 has a clearer path. But, Jeff, that was quite the impact there, between the 24 and the 10.
Man, I'm having a really hard time with this, and it's hard. It's hard, man. I'm going to watch my language here. I hate to say it that way, but bullshit's about the best answer I can give because, you know, Ty Dillon. I mean, he wouldn't even had a chance to even make it down to pit road. It looked like me. You know, when you're coming that fast and he's 2 car lengths above where pit road is the entry. You know, yeah, he kind of blamed it on the spotter a little bit, but you know, you got guys coming 185 miles behind you. If you're going to pit, you put your left hand out the window and you show the other drivers, hey, I'm pitting. You know, that's just courtesy. You can't just say that, oh, I told my spotter to go do it. But he was also so far up on the track, I don't think he could have even made it in there. So what a bullshit move to do. I think that was the most upsetting thing to me on the race. I mean, William Byron, I felt so bad for the guy. I mean, look at Ty Gibbs, or Ty Dillon. I'm sorry, Ty Dillon. You look at his stats. Okay, you know he came into the Cup Series in 2014. All right, he's been in the series 11 years now. How many wins does he have? 0. Okay, how many top fives does he have over the last 11 years? 2. He belongs in the ARCA series. He shouldn't even be in the Xfinity series. He needs to get out of the cup level and get the hell out. He's not a talented driver just because, you know, granddaddy's up there and, you know, brought him into the sport. You know, Austin Dillon, yeah, he's got some wins and he's got some accolades and not, but his brother Ty Dillon, you know, I just don't think he should be in it. I think he needs to get the hell out. All he's doing is causing problems, and what he did to William Byron, I think, was complete bullshit.
He did almost win the in-season NASCAR bracket challenge earlier this year, Sky. But I agree with Jeff.
Yeah.
I do agree with Jeff on a lot of what he's saying here. I think it was a terrible mistake by the 10. You know, I think Ty should have probably signaled. You know, the 24 said in his mind he thought that green flag pit cycles were done. Everybody had come in. He didn't think any other vehicles were coming in. But that's, you know, who to say you didn't have a tire going down? I mean, cars are still going to have to get down to pit road. So I do put the blame on the 10 there, and just unfortunate deal for William Byron.
I agree. I hated for Willie B because he was doing so good. And the 24, the last, I don't know, second half of the season, I feel like has been very mediocre, lukewarm, however you want to put it. So it was nice to see him, you know, kind of going out there and keeping up with, you know, Kyle Larson and kind of dominating. And I'm more just, it's so dangerous. You know, I'm glad that everybody was okay. I mean, you got to signal, you got to let people know, because that could have gone really bad. I mean, I immediately think of, I don't remember what track it was, but like Mark Martin, when someone, you know, came down trying to go to pit road and wrecked him, and he almost got hit on pit road. It just, I don't know. You got to be careful with that stuff because you can't play with lives, you know, everything can change in a second. So Ty Dillon, he definitely got to be more careful.
Yeah, that's a hard impact. Like I said, when you're coming from 180, 185 miles an hour on that line, you know, that's tough. That really is tough. And, you know, you just saw the disappointment. I mean, you got to give respect to the 24 car. You know, when he came out of the care center, you know, he said exactly, I'm just devastated. I have no indication. Just as good as the race was going to go from random shit like this happens, that's it. It just sucks. So, you know, to see him come down that hard when he led out of all the laps, he led 55 laps. So, you know, we had Kyle Larson led 129. We had Chase Briscoe, who I thought did a hell of a job this race. And I thought he might have won it with 57 laps. And then William Byron with 55. Anyone else below that was Denny Hamlin, 9 laps and below led. So to see William Byron do that well, and Sky, to your point, you know, Hendrick has been in a slump now for, you know, middle of half of the year up until almost the playoffs. And then once we got to the mile and a half, this is where I kind of started seeing him come together, especially at Kansas. I was like, okay, Kyle Larson, you know, he does really well. I thought he would do good this week. The 22 I thought would do really well. Unfortunately, he didn't have a good of a day as he did. I think he finished P22. Does that sound about, or P20? Does that sound about right? I think it was around P20 was his finish.
Chase Elliott, he finished 18th.
Chase Elliott finished 18th, but the 22, you know, he does really well. He won there last year. I'm trying to see, where did he finish?
Joey finished P6.
Oh, he finished P6. Okay, so yeah, so Logano got a really good finish out of it, but because of the point system, he's in the negative. He's 24 behind, so he's got to make it up too. Now, Denny Hamlin, let's go back to him a little bit. Martinsville is one of his favorite tracks. So being that we have kind of a roll of the dice crapshoot next week in Talladega, I think Denny's going to be very, very strong for that cutoff race. we might see two guys come in on points if Denny can win there as well. And Kevin, to your point, yeah, right now he doesn't need to focus on, his super speedway package. He doesn't have to focus on a short track package. He has to focus on Phoenix, and that's exactly what they're going to do, Kevin.
I mean, if I'm Denny Hamlin, that's how I would approach it. But one thing about Denny that he said many times is that he wants wins. He wants trophies. He's 3 away from tying Kyle Busch. That's a pretty big statement there. We know Kyle has a combined over 200 race wins. Of course, he's been completely off the radar this year. Could this be the week? I just have this funny feeling that Kyle Busch might have some fortune in Talladega. But yeah, I mean, Hendrick actually surprised me a little bit. I just wasn't sure what we were going to see out of the 5. The fact that he was up front, he was battling, pretty much all race long. He was in the conversation. I thought this was a good opportunity for those guys to go out and get a win. But the Toyotas did what we expected. They were right there. Chase Briscoe, you mentioned, he had the Xfinity fast lap of the race. I think if the 19 didn't take 2 tires there, he might have kind of had that Denny Hamlin speed at the end. But it's so tough because if that caution doesn't happen right on that restart, Denny was able to move up from 11th to restart 5th. So things kind of fell correctly for Denny to be able to put himself in that position and go out and get that win. I mean, he drove his ass off. He deserved it 100%. But if the cautions had fallen differently, I think we would have seen a different outcome.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny how that ends up working. But Denny, he was having some trouble. I mean, stage 1, I felt like I was thinking Denny was going to be out of it. He was saying he had some gear shifting issues, and then he ended up making contact with the 9, and obviously not intentional or anything. But to see him come back, I mean, through everything, I did want to mention, I felt bad for Chase Elliott too, because he was doing so well, and he's honestly been doing really well. He's kind of like a sleeper. He doesn't get as much credit probably, but he does pretty well. And to have, that uncontrolled tire and it not totally be his fault. I think they said he stopped a little long, which kind of threw the pit crew off. But it's so unfortunate when it comes down to that. And, he probably would have ended up, I want to say he probably would have had a top 3, maybe a top 5 finish if it weren't for that incident on pit road.
100%. Yeah. I mean, again, we've talked about it all year long. The mistakes are made on pit road. That's where you win and you lose positions. I agree with you, Sky. I think he would have been in the top 5. He was kicking ass. I think Hendrick did really well at this track, but just had really unfortunate luck, between Chase Elliott getting that penalty. He would have finished in the top 5. So it's tough to say because now we're going to tracks that are not the typical Hendrick tracks as far as doing well. Talladega, as we know, it's crapshoot, roll the dice. That might as well be called Las Vegas anyway. But Martinsville, that's a really flat track and a short track. I think, a couple of the drivers there, I think Kyle Larson will do very well. But again, I think Denny Hamlin's going to probably dominate that. But again, the mistakes that people are seeing on pit road, I think that's costing a lot of points. I mean, didn't Bubba Wallace have entered too fast or something like that? Didn't he have a penalty enter too fast, Kevin?
Yeah, the 23 got hit with a speeding penalty early. Those guys really never were able to overcome it. I mean, he ended up P22, to finish up. And Bubba obviously came on the radio and was just like, my bad, we got to tighten this up. We know that they're out of the playoffs, but these guys are trying to have, somewhat of a respectable season going into these next couple of weeks. But that's another maturity that we've seen out of Bubba. I mean, I remember in the past, he would make mistakes and be so hard on himself. I need to be replaced and make all these wild comments. It's been good to see the driver of the 23 come a long way this year. But, again, if you're in playoff contention, you cannot have these kind of mistakes on pit road. Talladega is a place where we sometimes see a lot of green flag pit stops, manufacturers pitting together. You get a speeding penalty at Dega. It's not the end of the world if you can catch, typically you'll stay on the lead lap, just how massive it is. But track position is going to be crucial there for sure. And you just can't do it. These guys have to button it up. We saw a slow stop on the 11 of Denny Hamlin. The Jackman didn't get the right side up, in a timely manner. They lost 3 seconds on that green flag pit stop and put him back into 10th. So you got to clean that stuff up to go win this championship, Guy.
I agree. And I really hope so for Hamlin. I'd like to see him at least have a fair chance. I feel like every time, he gets to the Final Four, he always has just these things just not go his way. And he really isn't in conversation for the championship, unfortunately, during those times. So I hope that, it could change this year and he can at least be a competitor. It all depends, though. You get a Penske car in there. Like, I don't know if I think Logano's going to make it at this point, but I would still put my money on Blaney making it. You get Blaney in Phoenix. I don't know. I feel like he's going to do pretty well. Dega, I am worried about it. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a really tough day for a lot of these playoff teams.
Yeah, it is. And kind of like you were talking about Phoenix. I mean, if you really think about it, the last 3 championships have all come from Penske. We've got 2 of them from the 22, and we got 1 from the 12 car. So, you get those guys into Phoenix, man, it's going to be a hell of a race. And I think there's a really good chance they can do it. And Logano, I think his best chance will probably be next week at Talladega. I mean, he's 24 points in the negative. Chase Elliott's only 1 point ahead of him with 23. But I think that the Logano and Ryan Blaney, 31 points down, man, it just bums me out so hard. It kind of ruined my bracket when we were talking last week about what 4 cars are making it in. Well, as far as this last race, 2 of mine got crushed. But I do think Penske's going to do really well in Talladega. So Blaney and Logano, I think, will do really well.
I do too. I mean, when we talk championships and we look at Phoenix as a whole, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but Denny Hamlin doesn't have a win at Phoenix, and that's obviously concerning in the next gen car. It's like you mentioned, it was Hendrick dominated there for a bit. We saw Kyle Larson win the championship. We've seen Penske win there. We know his teammate has won at Phoenix, Chase Briscoe, but those guys are going to have to dial it in, depending on who they're going up against. I think who did I put in? I had Denny, I had Kyle, I had Byron, and I had Blaney going. So my bracket is not lining up just yet. And of course, no one took Chase Briscoe to go to Phoenix. I think the 19 is going to find a way to sneak in, even if it is on points. Because, like I said, if we see a non-playoff driver win this weekend like we did last year, we saw Ricky Stenhouse Jr. win this race a year ago, that opens up that extra point spot. And, for some of those guys, they're probably almost rooting for that situation, Jeff.
Okay, so let me ask you guys this. Let's say we have a non-playoff driver win next week, right? Denny Hamlin wins in Martinsville. Man, we got people coming in on points. Other than Denny, we got 2 guys coming into the playoff on points. I think that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, I think that would be the first time since we've been doing the Final Four format that we'd have 3 transferring on points, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that makes sense because why would you put Dega this random track in the end? I don't know. I hate that it's here. I've said it a million times and I wear it out, but I am just not a fan. Yeah, I don't know. I really like to see the 11 do good. Like I said, he really surprised me at Vegas. I just thought for a minute I thought he was done and he came back, but just everybody out of the Toyota camp, I feel like, Christopher Bell and the 19, they're all really strong contenders. And I didn't put the 19 or the 20 through. And I kind of am regretting it now because I feel like Bell, he always finds a way to sneak in. I mean, he almost did last year. They got him on the attempted half melon or Hail Melon that he tried there. But I don't know. He's someone that I could think would probably get in. And the 19 definitely could sneak in too.
It's just going to be interesting to see how these next few weeks, shake out. I mean, we know everybody here at Mash the Gas, I speak for everybody. We do not like super speedway racing. That said, it's a huge staple of the sport. Daytona 500, we have to have it. It's massive. Talladega is, the biggest party in the infield. The crowd loves Talladega, Jeff. We know it. But this style of racing has never been something I've been interested in my entire racing career. And the fact that we're having, playoff situations with it to determine who's our best driver all year, a guy that goes out and wins the most races, gets wrecked at Talladega and the season's over. We know that there's things coming down the pipeline next year, Jeff, but these guys got to survive Dega.
Yeah, they really do. Because, it's just one of those tracks, both, Daytona and Talladega, just with the way they are. Yeah, it's fun to watch. It really is. I mean, I love watching them. I love it. It's fun. It's a blast. But when you're putting that in the playoffs, and that's gonna determine whether you make it forward or not. Like you said, hey, you get wrecked early and you're out, and that's what takes you out is a roll of the dice crapshoot type of win. Hey, maybe Ty Dillon's gonna win this one. Maybe he'll get his first damn win. Probably not. But, it's not one of those tracks that they should have as a playoff, a cutoff race, or any of that. It shouldn't be in any of the playoff formats. I think it gets great ratings. That's why NASCAR has it isn't in there. They need to make that money, and that does make them a lot of money. They get a lot of good viewership out of it. But as far as playoffs go, no way.
Yeah, I think that super speedway racing just does not mesh with a playoff type format because, the playoff type format pushes when you're in these kind of like all or nothing moments. And that does not work with super speedway racing. That doesn't work with when, people are so antsy to get up and win because that's all that matters, that they're willing to do these crazy boneheaded moves. Whereas if you did like a full season format, the finish is kind of what would count in the end. You can't make these crazy decisions because maybe you don't need to win. You just need to finish well. Like, I don't know if that makes any sense. I just don't think that super speedway racing meshes well with the playoff.
It totally does. I mean, let's look at them changing the playoff format. When you're the most consistent driver for 36 races out of the year, then whether the super speedways are in there or not, yeah, that's great. That's fine because you're going with consistency. You're not going with we've got 3 races and then someone's out, or 4 guys are out. So it shouldn't be in the playoffs. But when we're going to change the format, and hopefully they do next year, to a straight 36 races and who's consistent, then I'm fine with the super speedways being in there, Kevin. I mean, we love it.
It's not going to happen. I mean, I don't see NASCAR going. We've talked about this all year long. The Winston Cup days are over, and the playoffs are going to remain. Now, here's what I think is going to happen, and this is pretty much almost already been announced. I think they're going to wait till after Phoenix, but it's going to be a championship round next year rather than it just coming down to Phoenix, which I like better. It's an improvement from where we've been, that it just comes down to one race. The question is it still going to be 4 drivers that are championship eligible for the championship round? What does that look like? We don't know the nuts and bolts yet, Jeff, but that's what my understanding is. We will have a championship round next year of at least 3 races.
I would agree with that, and I wouldn't mind it at all. You know what? Okay, we've got the championship 4. Let's give them 2 to 3 races to see, who's got the best average finish, in 3 races, or maybe 4. I don't know. 3 races is just fine with me. I mean, Sky, what do you think? Because the format we have now, obviously, it just needs to go. I mean, we've tried it. It's fun, but it just doesn't work out. But if you're going to take, like you said, Kevin, having 3 races as the best of the 3, or kind of like, we do with a lot of sports, 4 out of 7 games, whether it's, hockey or basketball or whatever. I mean, only the, NFL is the only other sport that does, okay, 1 single game and you're done. But with the way NASCAR is formatted and how every single driver competes in it, I do think that it would be nice to see, okay, we're going to have a final round of 3 races and then see, who's got the best average of those 3. So I would agree with that. But if they did an overall, like, okay, maybe let's say instead of a 36 race format, how about we go 33 rounds and then the top 3 transfer over, and they're the ones that are eligible in that last segment, so to speak.
I mean, I don't know. I get what you're saying, and I don't think it's a bad idea. I guess I don't see NASCAR doing it, I guess is where I'm going with that. I feel like they would not fully, I don't know. They just are so dead set on this playoff thing. I feel like there's a lot of changes that could be made. I feel like they just need to if they get rid of the win and you're in, I feel like that would help so much, and just go off of points. Keep your little bracket, do what you got to do, I guess. I don't know. I just hate the win and you're in. Definitely give us more than just 1 race to determine a championship. It's so unfair. You could win every single race, lose the last race, and lose the championship. That just makes 0 sense to me.
And I think NASCAR is aware of it. I mean, I think Steve O'Donnell has kind of hinted at some of the things that we're seeing behind the curtain. The playoff system, I don't think goes away. But what we can critique and kind of, dial in to both your points is, do we make it? Is the round of 16 even worth it? Because those guys, they're always the first 4 out. It seems like the bottom 4 are always the first 4 out. Just get rid of that. The win and you're in. Maybe go back to 12 drivers playoff eligible, and you have to be and maintain in the top 20 in points. To me, that makes the most sense. That way you get rid of these like one-off winners at Talladega or some of these others. Obviously SVG definitely earned his keep by winning 4 road courses in the regular season to be in the playoffs. But something like that. My concern with the championship round would be this. If we have 3 races and it's going to be a best out of 3, let's say, two of those races, all 4 of those drivers have disastrous situations, up and down races. None of them win. And then you get to the final race, somebody wins, and then it's over. That's going to be kind of interesting to see, because at that point, it really is going to be an average of points. But if no one wins it, or if they're all DNFing through that round, that could get messy, Jeff.
Yeah, and Sky kind of mentioned it a minute ago about, the win and you're in. I agree with you, because if you lose, it's like, okay, you win. Some guy wins, it doesn't matter. Pick a driver, any driver, doesn't matter. It's like, okay, I didn't win this week, but I can win next week. Whether, Ty Dillon winds up, running shit all year long and then goes, oh, hey, check it out, I won a race, and he's in just because he won Talladega or something like that. That's not consistency. That's not what makes a championship. So the winning you're in, I agree with Sky 100% about getting rid of that format of you're in no matter what. How they're going to tweak it, I don't know. Kevin, like you mentioned, there's a couple different ways that they have plans on maybe looking at, but the win you're in, I just think it's ridiculous.
It is. And I think the entire industry is aware of it. They've complained about horsepower. We know that we're getting 750 next year on tracks less than a mile and a half, which is where they need it. The mile and a half package, I think, is decent. I think the rack and pinion steering and the lug nuts still are in the conversation that could, improve some of these things. But the 750, I'm curious to see what that's going to do on short tracks and road courses, kind of close the gap, give these guys a little bit more power up off the corner. I'm glad to see that come finally. And the other interesting thing is, we've been talking about TV ratings all year and how they've been declining significantly. Well, for the rest of the remaining season, the next 3 races, we're on regular over-the-air NBC, right? I know a lot of folks that don't get USA. We've talked all year long about all the different streaming platforms. I'm really curious to see how we finish this year off because we're trending to have one of our worst viewerships, in the history of the sport. So now that we're going to Talladega on NBC, competing against, the Sunday afternoon football games, I'm kind of curious to see what kind of viewership we can pull these next 3 weeks.
I was looking this up, and not to divert too much from NASCAR, but I think this is more of just like a streaming issue. Like I feel like a lot of people, the general American public or whoever wants to watch these, because the NFL is struggling a little bit with viewership too. I know that they're down a little, and they're following a very similar path to NASCAR. Like you have to go on Amazon and all this other stuff. So I feel like it's kind of a bigger issue than just NASCAR. I know that the stuff that NASCAR has going on isn't helping for sure. But I don't know. Hopefully it gets better with Dega. I'm excited and very nervous. I want Ryan Blaney to do well. I am concerned for him. I don't want to see him wreck out. I do think that he'll end up winning Martinsville probably. He's just been super, super good there. But I don't know. I just feel like this is going to be a really bad day for playoff teams.
You made a pretty good point there. I haven't really watched the NFL ratings and what's going on, as far as the channels go. My parents were here in Dallas over the weekend, and they're from Colorado, and they were showing the schedule for next week. And my dad was like, okay, wait a minute, the truck race on Fridays on what channel? And then you've got practice and qualifying on a different channel, and then you've got the Xfinity race on a different channel, and then the actual Cup races on a different channel. So you're telling me I have to look at 6 different channels if I want to watch all 3 of the series. And I'm like, yep, that's the way it's going these days. And that's what's frustrating. A lot of people don't have every single channel. A lot of people have either regular cable or they do streaming only. But it sucks when you want to go, whether it's NFL or NASCAR or whatever sport you like, when you're going, man, okay, now what do I have to subscribe to watch what I want to watch? I know this year is a little bit easier with Prime, where it was like, okay, hey, I'll do the free 1-month membership, get to watch the races they got on Prime, and then I'll just delete the account and hope I remember to, stop the payment so they don't charge me for another month or 2. But that's not the way you want to watch these races. So we've talked about this before. It's a money grab, whether it's NFL or NBA or NASCAR, it doesn't matter. What network's going to pay them the most money? That's going to total out to the most money that pays off the organization the best. And then, unfortunately, with NASCAR, as we know, they don't share it like they should, and that's why we're seeing the problems with 23XI or 2311 and Front Row Motorsports, having a hard time, because if you're not a charter team, you don't get paid not even half as much as you would if you were a charter team. You also have to race your way in. So it's unfortunate what NASCAR's doing. And I think they're driving a few people away from the sport. Like we were talking about, the lug nuts. I hate the single lug nut. Absolutely hate it. I've seen more tires off track just running around because one didn't get tightened up, so NASCAR, I think, needs to start listening to their fans a little bit more. But as far as the multiple channels, they need to dial it in. Let's go back to, maybe 3 networks, and that's it. I mean, Kevin, you and I both kind of share a few things here and there on, hey, here's this, here's that. But it sucks having to try to figure out, okay, where's practice? What races on what channel every single week?
Yeah, it's, in this guy's point, it's not just NASCAR. I mean, we're seeing it with the baseball playoffs right now. I mean, just viewership's down on a lot of sports, and that could be, for a lot of different reasons. People can't afford these different stream services or to have the higher, cable package. Like USA, for example, you have to have, I think it's like the orange package on Sling, Fubo, like a lot of these different stream services, you have to upcharge to get into that bracket. So that's, that's just one of those deals that they have to work out with these networks and these organizations. But I'm optimistic in NASCAR. I think they really are listening to their fans. Steve O'Donnell was on the Dale Jr. download last week and was said, hey, we hear it. If we do anything more than 750 horsepower, it's going to be over a $40 million hit to the industry. So they're trying to make it make sense for everybody. And some things are in their control and some aren't. I mean, it's going to take a couple years, I think, to really dial this thing in. I know we've lost a lot of the old NASCAR fan base. We have a newer fan base coming in, and that's just, that's where we're at. And so we're short on time here. We got to get to Talladega. As we know, I mean, you might as well just close your eyes and throw it at a dartboard, and whatever number it lands on, that should be your race pick winner. I mean, like I said, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. won here last year. I know Brad Keselowski is going to be strong. He wants to win, and I think if anywhere, it's going to come out of super speedway. So I'm going to come out early. I'm taking Brad Keselowski for the win in Talladega.
I like that pick. I would like to see Brad. He finished top 10 in Vegas. I don't think we shouted that out, but I did want to say that because that was pretty cool for him. I did exactly what you did. I closed my eyes and I just pointed at a number on the paper, and I got Chase Elliott. So I'm going to go with number 9 is going to win, which works because I have him going through in my final 4. So I'll take it.
Nice. That works. I'm going with 22. I'm taking Sky's favorite driver. I'm going to go with Joey Logano.
I think that's a good pick. Yeah, I think that, it's Talladega. You could literally pick anybody. I mean, like I said, I would not be surprised if Todd Gilliland or if Anthony Alfredo or BJ McLeod or Zane Smith goes out and gets a win. It wouldn't surprise me here at Talladega.
Alfredo sauce.
Yeah, this is Kyle Busch's opportunity to get a win. He's pretty good on the super speedways. It's just survive the wrecks, get out front, and just try to protect what you can. Make sure you have good, clean pit stops, which Kyle's had some trouble with this year. But, that's really what it's going to come down to is getting on and off pit road clean. This is a long race, 2.66 mile oval. We're running 188 laps here. Fuel is going to be an issue. Tires we don't typically see as a problem here in Talladega, but getting on and off pit road clean, pitting with the manufacturers, and putting yourself in position to win at the end. We know it's 3-4 wide racing. It's why the fans love it. It's intense, edge of your seat. And, if you're a Ryan Blaney fan, you're probably going to be chewing your fingernails off watching this. I do think the 12's got a shot to win it, and I agree with Sky. I think the 12 is going to win Martinsville here in 2 weeks. He's just so good there that I think the 12 definitely finds his way into Phoenix. But I think we're going to see some storylines coming out of Dega. Hopefully we don't have any cars upside down, although the fans love that shit, and it always seems to happen when we're on national TV. So any last remarks before we turn the page to Dega?
Have fun, but I hope all the drivers make smart decisions.
Yeah, right.
Let's not cause a big one. Hopefully everybody remembers to put their hand out when they're pitting so nothing crazy happens.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think Ty Dillon learned a thing or two. So all 3 series are in Dega this upcoming weekend. We got the trucks there on regular Fox, so that's a national covered event as well. We've got the CW for the Xfinity Series on Saturday, and of course we are on regular NBC. I'm glad that our sport is back on, all the major over-the-air network, basic NBC. Pretty much everybody can get that with just a basic over-the-air antenna. So curious to see what our viewership's going to do. It's go time. 2 races to go. Final 4 in Phoenix. It's heating up. We'll be back next Monday night to break down all of the action from Talladega. Should be a good one coming up. So be sure to follow us on social media over there at Mash the Gas across the board. Be sure to mash that subscribe button on wherever you're listening to us, of course. Follow NASCAR Sky at NASCAR Sky across the board. Let's go to Talladega. Try to survive it. Until then, y'all.
Mash the gas.